What's up? It's Rob from Bastos Boys. And we're actually breaking protocol of content, or we're not doing the normal content. I'm uploading something different. Pretty much gonna chat a little bit about a concept that's been floating around, and since it had been brought up again, certain individuals or a lot of people or certain people encouraged and pretty much asked me to chip in my 1-2 about this thought of combining all 5 tournaments that happen on Labor Day weekend. Filipino tournaments. Now, for those who don't know, there are Filipino tournaments, national tournaments that happen on Labor Day weekend. Wow, really? I didn't know that. Well, now you know. Not only is there 5, there's 5. Originally there was 1, which was PIBNA, and that branched off to NABA. And those 2 were around for about 20 years, until about 2004, 2005. An FBA was made. FBNA, something like that. The F. And there was 3 tournaments for about 10 to 13-ish years recently. Last year, there was a 4th tournament made. I forgot the name of it, forgive me. But I heard about it through the grapevine and reading comments like, oh, the 4th tournament was so-and-so. And then this year, there was 5. A 5th tournament was made, FBIT, I believe. Yes, FBIT. The whole concept of merging one tournament has been going on for years. And I'm going to explain why it hasn't happened and why it most likely will never happen. But I'm pretty optimistic it could happen, and I'll explain how it could happen, but I'm also going to explain why it won't really happen. Flashback to about 12 years ago. RiseHoops.com. Rise Hoops, founded by Banjo Albano, one of my personal mentors, one of the big basketball guys over in the motherland. He started this group, for basketball apparel, and they ended up running their own clinic. Found certain people, with the Rise tag, and Bobby Rise happened to be my nickname, and it stuck with me as I went on to coaching. So I went on coaching, Robbie Rise, yada yada yada. Back in 2008, myself and a colleague of mine from Boston, my brother Vinny, started Rise of the Sun, which was in correlation and connection with Rise Hoops. Rise of the Sun was a website created to feature Asian youth talent across the country and across Canada and across any Asian ball player that was up and coming, if you will. Majority of the ballers came from the East Coast because me and Vinny are from the East Coast. But we were able to feature a lot of the West Coast organizations, not only Hooptown and Maharlika, but the likes of non-Filipino groups too, that you probably never even heard of. Anyway, RiseOfTheSun.com, after about a year or 2, ended up hosting a couple of tournaments, trying to fulfill those dreams, trying to fulfill those desires to bring together different champions of the 3 different big tournaments at the time. Actually, 4. The 3 Filipino tournaments and the Chinese tournament, NACBA. So you got PIBNA, P-I or PABA, PIBNA, NABA, FBA, and NACBA. Rise of the Sun made several attempts to bring a lot of those competitive teams together, and Benny, took the challenge, hosting tournaments like Purple Summer, which actually still goes on today. Except, when Vinny sends out the invites to all these teams, it's pretty much the same reason why teams won't go to certain tournaments. There's always, some will say, excuse, some are actually valid reasons, but there's, we don't have any sponsors, we don't have any team players, we don't want to go up too far, we don't have enough players, we don't want to go too far, we don't want to spend money to go. Fair enough. Guess what? Pretty guilty myself. Coach Rodell, out in with Maharlika, he made several attempts to invite East Coast teams, and that man relied on me heavily because I had all the connections. But in my defense, I sent countless emails, and I reached out to countless organizers and tried to invite all these groups to go out there to the West Coast to see if we could compete with the West Coast teams. But, like I said, there was always the common excuses, common reasons why. We ain't got no money. We can't go. If we're going to travel, we're only going to travel for NABA. If we're going to travel, we're only going to travel for the East Coast. So it's like, And I know all through the years, I know I let Coach Rodell down because I failed to fulfill the hype of Coach Robbie Rise. He knows all these teams. He can get all these teams out. But no, they only want to go to NABA. They only want to go to PIBNA. They only want to go to FBA. Me and Vinny, we done tried to invite every champion of every tournament, yet there's always one reason that we can't get everybody together. So how much more we're going to try to bring all these hundreds of organizations together and not be able to work together? Why? Why is that? Nonetheless, Vinny always ran these tournaments, and they were 95%, if not 100% of the time, really successful. Shouts to Vinny. Shouts to Boston Messe, a mixed Asian organization now in the Massachusetts area that have been around for a very long time. Personal good friends of mine. I've actually coached against them many times, and I've coached their teams on several occasions between their boys and women's. Now, the whole concept of merging the tournaments together. Why will this never happen? Or why won't it happen yet? One word. It starts with a P and it rhymes with politics. Yes, it's politics. Certain aspect of people and certain endeavors will force people to cause friction between certain individuals or organizations with ideas that just don't match. We don't know. NABA branched out 30-40 years ago and it became successful. FBA branched out and it became successful, and it's successful for about 10-15-ish years. What surprises me is the fact that there are one tournament and then another back-to-back year where two new tournaments were formed, and people are still trying to do this concept of bringing it together when we're just getting even more divided. Again, politics will cause people to just segregate. Not everybody has the same vision. And like everybody says, this isn't a perfect world. Not everybody's going to be happy. When people aren't happy, they're going to branch off. I read a lot of stuff on social media, and I read a lot about how they didn't agree with the rule changes. Listen, it's easier for me to say when my teams in the past were able to make adjustments, because I pretty much handled one or two teams leading up to, inner city. But with that being said, when tournaments that we would attend, non-Labor Day tournaments that we would attend would change their rules, between Boston Messe, Vinny's changed his rules several times, and I made the adjustments to attend his tournaments. The New York Rockets, I always went to their tournament, no matter what. One tournament would be a certain division, and another tournament from another org in another city would host a different age group. And I would still put teams in there because I make the adjustment, Granted, it's easier said than done. I have a handful of teams, and whole orgs would have to make the adjustment to one or two simple rules. A lot of these individuals will cry, oh, we should have one tournament on Labor Day weekend. Yet they're going to other tournaments that are continuing the division of this community. Are their reasons valid for leaving? Yeah, you're not wrong. One of the main reasons they left was for one of the late birthday rule. Understandable. It's easier because other organizations agreed with it, and ended up those organizations that didn't agree, they went along. Said, hey, we're gonna go yours because you're following the rules that we're used to. The other one was the running clock. I understand, running clocks suck, especially if you're traveling. I remember I ran in 2005 when New York hosted it. We ran. The first game was slated for 8 o'clock, which happened to be my brother's team, and I was like an assistant manager or gym coordinator, if you will. I helped run that gym, and the time slot was 8 o'clock for the first game and 8:40 for the second game, hence running clock. Yet we had stop time. I think it was the last 30 seconds of the first half and then the last minute of the second half. Yes, it was a shit show. I remember we were at least an hour and a half to almost 2 hours behind schedule, and the games didn't finish till almost 10-11 o'clock that night. Yeah, I remember that shit was bad. People are traveling from out of town and they want to make the best of what they're paying for, so I understand.
Here's another example why we'll have a hard time converging on one big tournament. So the idea of height division is always brought up at a certain tournament. And one of the explanations I always hear from people that always suggest it, that are given to them by officials, is, oh, talent should not be determined by height. So tell me how a 5'10" and under or 6 foot and under division is usually the most popular. In tournaments like PIBNA, FBA, they have height tournaments. 6 foot and under, 5'10" and under, there, under 5'11", whatever. You gotta understand, Filipinos are short, the vast majority. Even 5'9", 5'8", it's a tip between 5'8" and 5'10" is a typical Filipino height. You look at Gilas, for example. Two of the recent Gilas teams, offensively powered by their guard. Look at their big men. Andre Blatch, Dote, not really Filipino. Granted, the recent announced Gilas team for the Southeast Asian Games is a more pure Filipino roster. It took 2 international tournaments to finally put together a more Filipino-bred team. Once in a while, you'll come across a Filipino big man that actually knows how to play big. I'll throw some names in there, a Brian Organ type. Back in the day in PIBNA, there was a Robert Reyes. a handful. You know, there was J.R. Galarza, who still had guard skills. You look at all the big names in NABA in that time frame, let's say 2005 to 2012. You know, Carlos de Chavez. That's a big man, you think. Well, high school and college, the man played guard. Now you look at Brian Organ type, North Jersey, 6'8", guard skills. Mark Palacios, tall dude, guard skills. Essentially, you're playing, you know, if you have one big guy on the floor, you have 4 guards around him. But for the most part, from most of the things that we've seen, you're playing 5-guard lineups. Granted, there was that one kid last year, that Tower. I forgot his name, from DC. He would be 100 yards away, and I'm still looking up to the guy. So I can't even imagine how much up more I'd be looking if I was next to him, because he's listed as 6'9", 6'10"-ish. I believe he helped his team get to the championship in the junior division, and they played Maharlika, and I'm pretty sure Maharlika won. Jared Dizon, shouts to Jared. I'm sorry, Jared Brown. There was Jared Dizon from back in 2012, 6'4" guard. No, Maharlika got those guys. Rosser, the tall. I think he was like 16 years old, playing in the juvenile division back in 2012 when they played Kalahi in the championship. And same thing, you know, tall guys, if you will. You know, their starting 5 was all really good players from Cali and Chicago. Jared Dizon, 6'4", he was a guard. And the big man, Rosser, 6'5", 6'6", maybe 6'7", guard. So they did have 1 or 2 big guys on that actually legitimately played big. So don't get me wrong, there are guys that know how to play the hole, that play the post, both posts. But for the most part, not only is NABA usually offensive and high scoring and really fast paced thanks to the freaking Canadians. Yeah, for the most part it's a guards game, and guards are essentially short. That's why they have divisions like a 5'10" and under, so that more people have a chance to freaking play. What happens to all these kids when they get to juvie and there's already an established open team in the open division level? You pretty much will theoretically take the best players from the juvenile team that are moving up in your organization, which leads to players leaving your org. And yeah, that's a whole, it's normal. But I guess, you know, you look at the whole point of these tournaments, or for the most, you want to build a foundation of youth. That's why they have a minimum 3 team rule in most tournaments, where you need a minimum of 3 teams to be able to participate as a delegation, which promotes youth development. So again, you got a juvenile division going up to, you have 1 or 2 players from the juvenile team that are eligible to play open. What happens to the other guys that want to play? It's been neglected, and it's just an issue where I know one year in Pimna there was almost 50 teams in one division, you know. So there's nothing wrong with a 5'10" guard that plays the hole. Shouts to Paulo fucking Reyes of Toronto. When that legendary Dream Large basketball group from Toronto, who could probably take on any team in the country, when that group played in Boston, they had the Lacan jerseys. Right, I remember that. Paulo fucking Reyes was a guard who was fully committed to playing the high post, fully committed to playing backdoor, running backdoor, fully committed to playing a post, and just drawing attention to the post, both posts. And there are a lot of guys that do that. Mike Palacios, Pete Panisopoulos, a bunch of C-Pug kids, you know, guys like Nico Guerrero. So, I guess. Rhino, roar! But don't get me wrong. In all these cities, smart players are eligible to play pretty much every dimension of the floor, which is why you can justify a 5'10" league. So the whole talent shouldn't be determined by height. You know, alright, I get it. A 6'3" forward won't be able to play in a short division. They belong in the open division. The open division is where the scouts really check you out to see if you're good enough to play in the motherland. Granted, they'll look at you when you're younger to see if you're eligible to, you know, you're good enough to play overseas, over there. Shit, it's annoying. Everybody's got issues. Don't get me started with how all these tournaments have non-Filipinos playing, because everybody does it. Telling me that these tournaments don't do it, you're a fucking liar.
Again, it's politics, it's different, and I'm sure there are a ton more reasons that I don't know, that I'm not fully aware of. I've been out of the scene for about 4 years, but I still keep in. When I left, when I took a hiatus from coaching, even though I'm not coaching, I took a hiatus. I would keep in touch with my players. I would like, what's going on? 90% of the time they were complaining. Like I said, this ain't a perfect world. Not everyone's gonna be happy. It ain't never gonna happen. And if it does, that will be one crazy shit show. Because, you know, look at the Chinese Nationals and Memorial Day weekend. NACBA. They might not have as many teams as us, but for decades, they've been committed to one weekend, to one tournament, and put their bullshit aside, saying, hey, alright, whatever happens, happens. I can almost guarantee not everybody agrees over there. Like I said, it's not a perfect world. You know, shouts to the organizers of NACBA, because you got your shit right, you know, and I've seen it grow. I've seen it come up in conversations before where people were shocked to hear that there were 3 different Filipino tournaments on Labor Day weekend. But the fact that there's 5, not that there's 5 tournaments, but there's 5 full tournaments. We're talking thousands of Filipino ball players from across the country, across Canada, from the UK. I heard there's teams from Australia that might be coming. There's groups from Hawaii, and it makes, no matter how much you can divide a group, it's still like full. So to take that amount of people, we're talking like thousands of ball players and 2 to 3 times as much family that come out to watch. You're talking about Olympic-sized numbers. Is it impossible? I don't want to say it's impossible, but is it really difficult to do? Yeah, because people have different ideas. And is it doable? Yeah, if you come together and try to compromise. But I don't really think some of these people ever want to compromise. They want to do it this way or that way. This way, or we're gonna make our own tournament. This community is gonna suffer for decades to come, because in the end, the kids are suffering. You don't know who the best is unless you go to the tournaments that Vinny used to host, or what Ken Mendoza used to host in DC. When me and Vinny were running Purple Summer, we were also promoting Ken Mendoza's tournament, and there was a year when he had a really good turnout. Teams from PIBNA, FBA, NABA, the Chinese Nationals, and I think a Korean team showed up. He could confirm with you if anything. You could ask him. I don't remember, but I know that was one of the biggest tournaments that I ever went to, and it was a well-run tournament as well. I get it, shit happens, and I don't even know where I am with this video right now. It's all over the place, but I'm really pissed because the whole concept of, oh, we should have one big tournament when there's 5 fucking tournaments. Right. I don't disagree. Obviously, we should have one, but we've been saying it for over 10 years. We've been saying it for almost 2 decades. Like, is it ever gonna happen? I personally don't think so. Do I still believe in it? Do I still believe in, you know, the Filipino people to come together? You know, there's gotta be some sort of, you know, rock, like a Manny Pacquiao or Jessica Sanchez or a Jabberwocky or Gilas type of unity bring us together. Why is it that we could cheer for our own people, but we can't come together to make one big, you know, true family that we really could be? I mentioned before, I've seen the absolute best of this community, of this family, but I've also seen the very worst. And basketball can bring out the best of people, and it can bring out the incredibly ugly. Yeah, this leads into what I have planned for the next couple videos. I've been talking to a lot of people that I used to, you know, kick it with, and I don't want to say that the culture's changed, but the culture's changed. Like, I was in an era when we were so close to our opponents, especially from across the border. We were able to have dinner at an opponent's house night before, you know, the drawings, and we'd end up playing against them at NABA and still be, you know, really close, win or lose. You know, our relationship hasn't changed. Now it's like, yeah, cross towns would be cool, but I could feel the difference. It's like, it's just not as tight knit as it was back before when I was there. More tournaments equals dwindle lesser talent. We were able to get away with 3 tournaments. You know, all 3 tournaments had different age brackets. Now it's going to be even more different. A juvenile division here could be a different age bracket here. But then, you know, personally, I really didn't care. You know, there's 1 year gap. Take juvenile, for example. If it could be 19 and under 20. Oh, fuck, I hated this shit. It used to be 19 and under, and then it turned into under 20 FIBA bullshit. And it was easier when it was number and under versus under 20, because ever since then, it's been confusing as fuck. You had to, like, spoon feed. That's the word. You literally have to spoon feed what year and when in the Labor Days. And yeah, I'm gonna reach out to a bunch of my regional representatives for Rise of the Sun, see if I could put together, you know, all the previous champions of since I was in the scene from about 2005 till about 2012, 2013. 2005, 2012, I was involved with NABA, and then 2013 we went to FBA, and then that winter after that fall, I enlisted. So I pretty much got out of the scene, and it's, you know, I tried to keep track. So in conclusion, 5 tournaments doesn't really show any sort of sign of unity between all 5 different organizations or 5 big organizations with thousands of Filipino ball players from all across North America. And is it a bad idea? No, it'd be great, but keyword of politics will always the reason for the division in our community. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in. It's not a perfect world, but hey, if we were to somehow iron out the friction and the disagreements between everybody, it's basically asking everyone to get their foot out of their ass and asking all these guys to work together, which is merely impossible. As myself, Coach Vinny, Tito Ken, and several organizations have tried in the past, it's all talk until it's actually done. Best suggestion, champion of this, champion here, champion here. Why don't you guys just hold an annual scrimmage, meet somewhere before the tournaments actually happen, and determine who's the best out of the 5 champions of 9 to 11 different divisions. Anybody whose feelings I've hurt somehow, I don't give a flying fuck. Someone had to say it, and everyone encouraged me, so I don't give a damn. Cheers. I'm former coach Robbie Rice, Rob of Bastos Boys. If you stuck around this long, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all around. Shouts to Nico de Chavez for the Blue Eagles fitted. Ateneo ese.